Something in you is tired of holding the whole day together with your mind. Not tired like you need a nap. Tired like you have been carrying invisible weight, quietly, steadily, without anyone seeing the effort it takes. And the universe has noticed, not with judgment, with tenderness, because it has been watching you try to manage what cannot be managed, to predict what cannot be predicted, to solve tomorrow before tomorrow arrives, as if your worrying were a form of love, as if your tension were a form of protection. You may not call it fear, but you feel it in the way your thoughts keep reaching forward, grabbing at possibilities, rehearsing conversations, reviewing outcomes, preparing for disappointment, even when nothing is happening right now. And I want you to hear this gently, the way a good friend would whisper it to you when you finally sit down. You do not have to keep living with your shoulders lifted toward your ears. You do not have to keep your breath shallow. You do not have to keep your heart on standby. The universe did not design you to be a constant emergency plan. There is a quiet intelligence moving through your life, even when you cannot see it. Especially when you cannot see it. There are moments you thought were nothing, and they were actually guidance. A delay that saved you from an exhaustion you were about to step into. A conversation that didn't happen, that would have drained you. A door that stayed closed until you were ready to walk through it without shrinking. You have been interpreting the silence as absence, but sometimes silence is the universe asking you to soften, so you can finally hear what has been trying to reach you all along. When you grip today too tightly, you don't actually feel safer. You only feel more responsible. You make yourself the manager of everything, the manager of everyone's emotions, the manager of timing, the manager of outcomes, the manager of the future. And sweet one, that is too much for any heart. You were never meant to hold life like a tight fist. Life is not something you conquer. Life is something you cooperate with. And if you have struggled to trust, I understand. Because many of us learned very early that relaxing meant something could go wrong. Maybe you lived around unpredictability. Maybe you learned that being alert kept you from being surprised. Maybe you became the strong one before you were old enough to know what that would cost you. And you called it being responsible. You called it being mature. You called it being prepared. But what it really was a nervous system that didn't feel safe enough to rest. So of course, your mind runs ahead. It thinks it is helping you. It thinks if it can map every outcome, you won't be hurt. And I want you to recognize this without shame. There is nothing wrong with you. There is something devoted inside you, trying to protect you. Imagine the part of you that keeps scanning for problems like a devoted guard who never got told the danger has passed. That guard has been loyal. That guard has been working overtime. That guard has been standing at the edge of your life with a lantern, watching, listening, bracing. And perhaps no one ever came to that guard and said, "Thank you. You can sit down now. You can rest. I am here with you." Today, let these words be that message. Because this is not a random moment. This is not an ordinary video. This is a timing. The universe has been waiting for you to arrive at this exact point, where you are finally willing to consider something different. Not forced positivity, not pretending everything is fine, not making yourself wrong for feeling what you feel. Something gentler, something truer. I know this to be true. Your life responds to the way you hold yourself inside. When you hold yourself with harshness, life feels harsh. When you hold yourself with distrust, everything feels suspicious. When you hold yourself with softness, you begin to notice support that was always there. Not because life becomes perfect, but because you become present enough to receive what is actually happening. So let's talk about letting go of today. People misunderstand letting go. They think it means you stop caring. They think it means you become passive. They think it means you ignore reality. No, my dear. Letting go means you stop strangling the moment. You stop demanding that today prove your worth. You stop insisting that today must answer every question. Letting go is an inner release. It is the difference between carrying a glass of water gently and carrying it with a trembling grip for miles until your hand cramps. The water is the same. The glass is the same. But your experience is entirely different. And you may have been living with cramped hands for a long time. So the first gift I want to offer you is permission. Permission to be unfinished today. Permission to not have closure yet. Permission to not know. Because the universe does not punish you out for being human. It guides you through being human. Sometimes you are in a season where answers are not available because you are not meant to build your life from answers. You are meant to build it from presence. And presence is something you can have right now. Even if your bank account is uncertain, even if your relationship is complicated, even if your family is difficult, even if your body is healing, even if your future feels foggy, the point of power is always in the present moment. Not because the present moment is always comfortable, but because it is the only place where your choices are real. Your mind will tell you, yes, but what about tomorrow? And I want you to hear me. Tomorrow will come, and you will meet it. But you do not have to meet it today. You are allowed to set down the heavy suitcase of later. Sometimes you've been carrying tomorrow like a penalty, like a looming test, like a storm that hasn't even formed. And I wonder how much of your suffering has been from what is real, and how much has been from what your mind has been painting in advance. This is only a thought, and a thought can be changed, not by fighting it, not by yelling at it, but by meeting it with new words, new instructions, new care. Because words matter. The words you speak inside your mind are like the atmosphere you live in. If the inner atmosphere is harsh, your heart is always bracing. If the inner atmosphere is kind, your body begins to exhale. And the universe is so wise, it often reaches us through language. A single sentence can become a doorway. A single phrase can become a handrail in the dark. That is why you were led here, to these words, not as a spell, not as a guarantee, as a practice, as a way of returning to yourself. And I want to be very honest with you. Sometimes trust does not feel like trust. Sometimes trust feels like a small willingness to stop checking the lock for the 10th time. Sometimes trust feels like closing the laptop, even though you could keep searching. Sometimes trust feels like letting the message sit unanswered for a moment so you can breathe. Sometimes trust feels like going to bed without solving everything. Trust can look very ordinary, and yet it can change your whole life, because the change begins inside. Now I'm going to give you a set of words you can return to when your mind starts racing ahead. And as I share them, notice what happens in your body. Does your jaw soften? Do your shoulders lower? Does your breathing deepen? Because your body is always telling you the truth. You don't have to force anything. Just notice. Here are the words. I release the need to finish the future in my mind. Let that land. You may notice resistance. That is okay. Resistance is often the mind saying, but if I stop, what will happen? And we answer it gently. We say, I release the need to finish the future in my mind. Again, slowly, I release the need to finish the future in my mind. Now another, I allow today to be exactly what it is without making it a verdict about my life. You see, that's what we do when we are anxious. We take a moment and we turn it into a prophecy. One uncomfortable day becomes, this is my life now. One unanswered message becomes, I am unwanted. One mistake becomes, I always ruin things. And that is not truth. That is a frightened mind looking for certainty. So we say, allow today to be exactly what it is, without making it a verdict about my life. Now another, I can take one honest step, and that is enough for now. Because part of what exhausts you is the fantasy that you must take 10 steps at once. You do not. You can take one. One phone call, one glass of water, one boundary, one breath, one kind thought. So we say, I can take one honest step, and that is enough for now. Now another set of words. I am learning to rest my inner protector. Notice how that feels. Not get rid of it, not stop it. Rest it. That devoted guard, that part of you that scans for danger, it does not need to be fired. It needs to be reassured. So we say, I am learning to rest my inner protector. And now I open to the support that is already around me. Because support is often present, but we are too tense to notice it. It shows up as a friend who texts at the exact right time. It shows up as a sudden insight in the shower. It shows up as a no that frees you. It shows up as an unexpected calm when you thought you would fall apart. So we say, I open to the support that is already around me. Now I want to pause here and let you feel something. Place your attention where your body meets the surface beneath you. Notice the contact. Notice how you are being held. You do not have to earn that support from the chair, from the bed, from the ground. It simply holds you, and that is a lesson. The universe holds you in this same way, quietly, without drama, without announcement, even when you doubt it, even when you feel alone, even when you're certain you've been forgotten. You haven't. Sometimes you are simply in a chapter where the guidance is happening beneath the surface, and this is important. Not every good thing arrives with fireworks. Some good things arrive as relief. Some arrive as silence. Some arrive as the end of something you were afraid to release. And you may not recognize the blessing at first because it doesn't look like what you wanted. But later, you will understand. And you don't have to rush to understanding. You can rest. Now let's talk about tomorrow. So many people say, trust tomorrow. But inside, what they mean is, I hope tomorrow doesn't hurt. And I understand that, because you have lived through things that did hurt. You have had hopes that didn't work out. You have been disappointed. You have been surprised. So your mind says, let me stay ready. But what is the cost of staying ready all the time? The cost is your joy. The cost is your sleep. The cost is your presence. The cost is the simple sweetness that exists right now, even in an imperfect life. And you deserve good things. Not only later, you deserve moments of ease now. So the invitation here is not to pretend tomorrow will be perfect. The invitation is to stop poisoning tomorrow with today's fear. Because fear is a powerful storyteller. It takes a blank page and writes a tragedy. Trust does something different. Trust looks at the blank page and says, let's see what is written when I arrive. Trust is not certainty. Trust is relationship. Relationship with life. Relationship with yourself. And the universe is always building that relationship with you through timing, through redirection, through what falls away, through what remains. And if you think about it, there have been moments you did not think you would survive, and you did. Not because you had all the answers, but because something in you rose up when it was needed. That something is still here. It hasn't left you. It may be quiet right now, because it is waiting for you to stop shouting at yourself. Now, I want to bring this into daily life, because spiritual truth must be practical to be real. What does it look like to let go of today? It looks like finishing a task and not immediately searching for the next thing to prove yourself. It looks like eating and actually tasting your food. It looks like stepping outside for 1 minute and letting the air touch your face. It looks like noticing that your breath is shallow and letting it deepen. It looks like telling yourself the truth without cruelty. And what does it look like to trust tomorrow? It looks like preparing when preparation is loving and then stopping. It looks like making a plan and allowing space for life to surprise you. It looks like choosing sleep over one more round of worry. It looks like letting the future be a place you visit later, not a place you live in now. So if your mind insists, but what if something goes wrong? We answer gently, if something goes wrong, I will meet it when it arrives, with the strength that arrives with it. You see, you don't have to borrow strength from tomorrow. Strength is not meant to be hoarded. Strength appears when it is needed, and the universe has been showing you this your whole life. Think of times you did not feel ready, and yet you handled it. Think of times you felt weak, and yet you kept going. Think of times you thought you had nothing left, and then somehow you found one more breath. That wasn't luck. That was life moving through you. Now there is another layer here that is so important. Sometimes we cling to today because we are afraid of what we will feel if we stop. If we stop, we might feel the grief we've been avoiding. If we stop, we might feel the loneliness under the busyness. If we stop, we might hear the truth we've been drowning out. And I want to say this with such compassion. Your feelings are not here to punish you. Your feelings are here to be heard. When you give yourself permission to feel gently, honestly, the feeling moves. When you resist, it hardens. So part of letting go of today is letting yourself be real today, not dramatic, not overwhelmed, just real. You might say, today I am tender, or today I am uncertain, or today I need comfort. And then you give yourself something kind, a cup of tea, a slower pace, a hand on your heart, a little less self-criticism. Because the way you treat yourself in uncertainty teaches your mind whether it is safe to relax. If you punish yourself for being human, your inner guard stays on duty. If you soothe yourself, your inner guard begins to sit down. Now let me share something I have learned. Sometimes the universe cannot bring you what you are asking for because you are gripping the request like a demand. And demands carry tension. But when you soften, when you release, when you open your hands, you become available. Available to notice the opportunity, available to receive the help, available to say yes to the right thing, available to walk away from the wrong thing. This is why stillness is so powerful. Stillness is not doing nothing. Stillness is listening. And the universe speaks in the spaces where you stop forcing. It speaks in the moment you choose kindness over panic. It speaks in the moment you stop checking for proof. It speaks in the moment you say, I don't know yet, and I can still be okay. Now, I want to return to the words because these words are meant to be used. Not only here, use them when you wake up and your mind starts listing problems. Use them when you are waiting for a response. Use them when you are about to send a message from fear. Use them when you are lying in bed and tomorrow starts marching into your thoughts. These are not special moments. These are the moments where your life changes. Because your life is not only the big events, your life is the way you speak to yourself between the events. So here is another set of words, simple, steady. I do not have to hurry the unfolding. You may notice how deeply you have been hurrying healing, hurrying answers, hurrying someone else's growth, hurrying love, hurrying your own worthiness. And yet, the most beautiful things in life have their own timing. You cannot pull a flower open without damaging it. So we say, I do not have to hurry the unfolding. Now, I can be faithful to this moment, not perfect. Faithful. It means you show up to what is here. A faithful breath, a faithful step, a faithful choice to be kind. So we say, I can be faithful to this moment. Now I want to speak to the part of you that fears disappointment. Sometimes the mind says, if I trust, I will be hurt. But trust is not the same as giving your power away. Trust is not ignoring red flags. Trust is not abandoning yourself. True trust includes your inner wisdom. Your inner wisdom knows how to say no. Your inner wisdom knows when something is not aligned. Your inner wisdom knows when you are forcing. And when you trust tomorrow, you are not trusting everything outside you. You are trusting that you will stay with yourself. That is a different kind of trust, a deeper one, a safer one. So you might say, no matter what tomorrow brings, I will not abandon myself. Let that be your foundation, because when you know you will stay with you, the future stops feeling like a threat. Now I want to bring in a gent, the truth. Some of what you are calling trust issues is actually grief. Grief for times you tried your best and it still didn't work out. Grief for times you weren't protected. Grief for times you felt alone. And the universe does not ask you to skip that. It asks you to hold it with love. Because love is what heals trust, not pressure, not forcing yourself to move on. Love. You may put a hand on your heart right now and simply acknowledge, I have been through a lot. Not as a story to repeat, but as an honor to the truth of your life. And then you offer yourself the next truth, and I am still here. This is why the universe is speaking to you now. Because you are ready for a new relationship with time. You are ready to stop treating today like an emergency. You are ready to stop treating tomorrow like a judge. You are ready to live again, not only survive. Now let's address something that happens often. When people try to let go, they do it with force. They say, "I have to let go," and then they get tense about letting go. But letting go is not a command. It is a relaxation. It is a softening. So instead of "I have to let go," try this gentler approach. I can loosen my grip a little, that's all. A little. Because transformation happens in increments. Your nervous system learns through repetition, through safety, through kindness. So if today you can loosen your grip 5%, that is a miracle. If tonight you can soften your jaw, that is a miracle. If you can stop rehearsing one conversation, that is a miracle. Do not underestimate small shifts. Small shifts are how life turns. Now I want to tell you a story, not about someone else, about the way life often works. There are times when you are waiting, and waiting feels like rejection. It feels like life has forgotten you. But then, something happens, quietly. You meet a person you weren't looking for. You hear a sentence that rearranges your thinking. You notice an opportunity that didn't exist before. You realize the delay prevented you from stepping into something that would have drained you. And you look back and see timing was not punishment. Timing was protection. And beyond protection, timing was preparation. Not preparation that happens with loud announcements. Preparation that happens inside you, where you become stronger without noticing, where you become clearer without realizing it, where you stop wanting what was never truly for you. This is how the universe guides, not always by giving you what you demand, often by reshaping you until you are ready for what you truly deserve. Now I want to bring this home to your words, because the title says, "Trust tomorrow with these words." So let's gather them, not as a list, but as a living set you can return to. When you feel yourself spiraling, you can say, "I release the need to finish the future in my mind." When you feel today becoming a verdict, you can say, "I allow today to be exactly what it is, without making it a verdict about my life." When you feel overwhelmed by everything at once, you can say, "I can take one honest step, and it is enough for now." When you feel your inner guard scanning again, you can say, "I am learning to rest my inner protector." When you feel alone, you can say, "I open to the support that is already around me." When you feel rushed by the unfolding, you can say, "I do not have to hurry the unfolding." When you feel pulled out of the present, you can say, "I can be faithful to this moment." And when the deepest fear arises, you can say, "No matter what tomorrow brings, I will not abandon myself." Now notice something. None of these words demand that life be perfect. They do not make grand claims. They do not try to control the world. They are words that bring you back to yourself. And that is why they work. Because the greatest shift you can make is not outside. It is inside. You are learning to become a safe place for you. And when you become a safe place for you, life changes. You choose differently. You speak differently. You pause before reacting. You stop chasing what is not aligned. You recognize what is loving. Now I want to speak to you about the mind's habit of bargaining with time. Sometimes you think, if I worry enough today, tomorrow will go better. But worry is not a currency that purchases safety. Worry is just a repetitive thought pattern with a heavy feeling attached. It drains you, and you need your energy. Your energy is precious. Your energy is what creates. When your energy is consumed by fear, you have less to give to your healing, to your joy, to your vision. So letting go of today is also a choice to protect your energy, and the universe is always interested in your energy, because your energy is your signal. When you are clenched, your signal is struggle. When you are soft, your signal is openness. When you are present, your signal is clarity. This is not about blaming you for being anxious. This is about empowering you. You can shift your signal, not perfectly, not instantly, but consistently. Now let's bring in a gentle moment of practice. If your eyes want to soften, let them. Notice the space behind your eyes. Notice how much effort it takes to keep your face tense. And then allow a tiny release. Not dramatic, just a little. Now notice your tongue. Is it pressed to the roof of your mouth? So many people do this when they are holding tension. Let your tongue rest. Now notice your shoulders. Let them drop a fraction. And then simply breathe, the way you would breathe if you felt safe. You do not need to wait for life to change to breathe like you are safe. Sometimes breathing like you are safe is what begins the change, because the body and the mind are in conversation. When the body relaxes, the mind listens. Now, I want to tell you something the universe has been trying to tell you. You do not have to earn the right to be at peace. Peace is not a reward for finishing everything. Peace is a choice you can practice, even in the middle of unfinished things. And you may say, but if I relax, I'll lose momentum. No. There is a difference between momentum and pressure. Pressure is fear-driven. Momentum is aligned. Pressure says, I am not enough yet. Momentum says, I am moving with life. Pressure burns you out. Momentum sustains you. So the invitation is not to stop moving. It is to stop whipping yourself. Now I want to address one more tender thing. Sometimes you don't trust tomorrow because you don't trust your worth. You feel, if things don't go well, it means something about me. But outcomes are not identity. A closed door is not a judgment of your value. A delay is not a verdict on your deservingness. A mistake is not proof that you are flawed beyond repair. You are learning, you are healing, you are growing, and growth is not always graceful. Sometimes growth feels like uncertainty. Sometimes growth feels like letting go of an old identity. Sometimes growth feels like being in between, and the universe often guides us through in between, because in between is where you stop relying on old patterns and you begin to discover new strength. Now let's take something very practical: bedtime. Tonight, when you climb into bed, notice what your mind wants to do. It wants to plan. It wants to solve. It wants to replay. It wants to chase. And you can treat your mind like a worried child. You don't scold the child. You don't argue. You simply say, "Thank you for trying to protect me, and I am choosing rest now." And then you return to your words. You choose one, only one, and you let it be the last sentence you live in before sleep. Perhaps it is, "I do not have to hurry the unfolding." Or perhaps it is, "I release the need to finish the future in my mind." And you let that be enough. You let tomorrow wait outside the bedroom, because sleep is sacred. Sleep is a reset. Sleep is the body repairing what the day wore down. And when you sleep, the universe continues working. Yes, even when you are not actively thinking, sometimes the most beautiful rearrangements happen when you stop interfering. Now, let's take another practical moment. Morning. In the morning, your mind may reach for the familiar weight. It may begin listing problems before you even sit up. And you can interrupt that gently. You can say, "I can take one honest step, and that is enough for now." And you choose the first step. Not all the steps, just the first. Because many people exhaust themselves by trying to carry the whole staircase. You only need the next step. Now, as we move toward closing, I want you to feel something important. You have been trying so hard, and the universe is not asking you to try harder. It is asking you to soften, to stop turning life into a test you must pass. You are not here to prove you deserve love. You are here to remember you are made of it. And when you remember that, tomorrow looks different. Not because tomorrow becomes predictable, but because you become steadier. And steadiness is a kind of freedom. So if there is one message the universe has for you in this exact moment, it is this: the pressure you've been carrying is not required. You can set some of it down, and as you do, you will notice something. Life begins to meet you. Opportunities become visible. Help becomes recognizable. Peace becomes possible in small pockets of time. Not because everything is fixed, but because you are no longer fighting yourself. Tonight, you don't have to carry tomorrow into bed with you. Let this moment be enough. And if you need a simple invitation to seal this, here it is. May you meet what comes with an open heart and a steady presence.